I walked into my wife's office. My heart beat steady, my steps measured, but my mind was a battlefield of emotions. The air carried the familiar scent of her expensive perfume, a scent I once loved, one that used to remind me of home. Now it smelled like power, control, deception. It clashed with the sterile scent of the office, a space where I had spent far too many years pouring my soul into a company that never truly saw me. Or maybe they did, but they never valued me the way they should have. The city skyline stretched beyond the glass walls, sunlight bouncing off the sleek furniture, making the space look even more impersonal. Everything about her office screamed authority, control, and right now, victory. I saw it in her posture, the way she sat behind her desk, perfectly manicured fingers laced together as if she had just finished signing $1 million deal. But it was her smile that caught my attention. It wasn't her usual composed corporate grin. No, this one was different, smug, self-satisfied, cruel. She was waiting for me. I let the silence stretch between us as I closed the door behind me, my pulse calm, my face unreadable. I had learned long ago how to mask emotions, how to keep control even when the ground beneath me was shifting. "Congratulations, Jamie," she said, her tone almost playful, as if this was all a joke, as if she were about to deliver a punchline. "Your hard work paid off. I'm promoting my boyfriend, Steve, instead of you. He's more of a team player." The words hit like a hammer to my chest, sinking deep into my stomach. But I didn't react. I didn't give her the satisfaction. I simply stood there, absorbing the impact. 5 years. 5 years of sacrifice, of long hours, of skipping vacations, missing family gatherings, all to build her company, to prove my worth, to create something meaningful. I had poured my heart into this job, into this business, into her. And now she sat across from me, acting as if it had all been a game. And the worst part? She wasn't even ashamed. Her eyes held no guilt, no hesitation, only triumph. She had planned this. She expected me to break. Steve, I should have known. The man who conveniently climbed the corporate ladder at warp speed. The one who laughed too easily, who always seemed to be at the right place at the right time. The man who dodged responsibility when things went south, but took credit when they went well. Steve, who was now taking my promotion. I exhaled slowly, keeping my anger in check. If she was expecting an outburst, she would be disappointed. If she wanted me to crumble, to beg, to fight, she was out her mind. Without a word, I reached into my pocket and pulled out a white envelope. Crisp, clean, it had been in my desk for weeks. I had known, deep down, that something like this was coming. I placed it on her desk, right on top of her pristine stack of reports, sliding it forward with controlled precision. My fingers released it with a sense of finality. "I understand," I said simply. "Here's my resignation letter." The change in her expression was subtle, but I caught it. The slight furrow of her brows, the hesitation before reaching for the envelope. She hadn't expected that. She thought she held all the power, thought I needed this job more than they needed me. She thought wrong. She peeled the envelope open, her nails tapping softly against the paper. Her eyes scanned the words, at first quickly, then slower. Her expression shifted. Her lips parted. Her back stiffened. Because she hadn't just found my resignation letter inside that envelope. The envelope contained something else. A report. A very specific report. One that detailed the revolutionary project management system I had been working on for the past 3 years. A system that streamlined productivity, reduced inefficiencies, and, most importantly, made companies millions. A system she had ignored. A system I had patented 6 months ago. Her fingers trembled slightly as she flipped through the pages, realization dawning. I watched, almost amused, as she tried to piece it all together. "Jamie," she started, her voice softened now, uncertain. I tilted my head, slightly waiting. "Why didn't you tell us about this before?" I let out a small, humorless chuckle. "I did," I said, 3 times. "You dismissed it." Her face paled. She shuffled the papers, her mind racing, trying to find a loophole, trying to regain control. You patented it," she whispered. 6 months ago, I confirmed." She inhaled sharply, And that was when I saw it. The first crack in her armor, the moment she realized she had miscalculated. For years, she had belittled my ideas, pushed me aside, prioritized politics over innovation. And now, she was seeing the consequences. She straightened her shoulders, her voice carefully controlled. Jamie, let's be reasonable. We can match whatever offer you've gotten. Maybe even do better. I laughed, a genuine, full-body laugh. Ashley, I said, calling her by her name for the first time in this conversation, it's not about money. She opened her mouth to argue, but I didn't let her. It's about respect, I continued. Something I never got here. Her lips pressed tightly together. She knew I was right. I had spent years being overlooked, being used, being underestimated. And now, when she finally realized my worth, it was too late. I buttoned my jacket, adjusted my watch as I took a step back. You and Steve enjoy the promotion, I said smoothly, my voice dripping with finality. I'm sure you'll do great without me. And with that, I turned and walked out her office. I didn't need to look back to know she was panicking because, in the end, she had played the game wrong. She thought she had the last laugh. She thought she had all the power. But what she didn't realize was that I had been playing a game of my own. And now I was winning. I knew Evermark had just handed a major promotion to a guy I wouldn't trust to manage a lemonade stand. And I knew Noah had been sitting on something big. I took a sip of my coffee, letting his words settle. He was testing me, pushing for a reaction. I gave him nothing. Go on, I said evenly. He smiled slightly, clearly appreciating my composure. Your system, he said. I've heard whispers about it. A project management tool that optimizes efficiency, reduces redundancies, and streamlines operations at an industry-wide level. Evermark was blind to what they had, but I'm not. I want to know what it does, and more importantly, I want to know if you're willing to bring it to Westbridge. I let a slow smirk cross my face. You've done your homework. That's my job, he said simply. I leaned back in my chair, fingers tapping against my coffee cup. It's not just a tool, I said. It's a game changer. Companies lose millions every year to inefficiencies, bottlenecks, miscommunication, outdated processes. My system doesn't just track progress. It analyzes patterns, predicts obstacles, and adapts in real time. It turns workflow into something predictable, scalable, and foolproof. Noah's eyes flickered with interest. And you patented it. It wasn't a question. He already knew the answer. 6 months ago, I confirmed, which means Evermark has no rights to it. They ignored it. They ignored me. And now they don't get to have it. Noah's smile widened slightly, the kind that said he appreciated the vengeance in my tone. I like the way you think, he said. And I like what you've built. I want it. I took another sip of my coffee. That depends, I said smoothly, on what you're offering. This was the moment when everything shifted. I wasn't just a guy looking for a job. I wasn't just another former employee trying to land on his feet. I was the asset here, and Noah Grant knew it. He reached into his briefcase and slid a folder across the table. Take a look. I opened it. Base salary, triple what I was making at Evermark. Equity, a 10% stake in Westbridge's next innovation sector. Title, Vice President of Strategic Development. Full creative control over my system's integration. I kept my face neutral, but inside, I was already calculating my next move. This wasn't just a job. It was a seat at the table, a kingmaker deal. I closed the folder and met his gaze. I have 2 conditions. He raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Go on. First, I continued, I want full autonomy over how this system is implemented. No bureaucracy. No corporate red tape. I run it my way. Noah nodded. Done. Second, I smiled. I want the press release to state clearly that Evermark had the opportunity to implement this system and chose to pass on it. Noah chuckled. You really want to twist the knife, don't you? They underestimated me, I said. I just want to make sure they realize exactly what they lost. Noah leaned back, considering me, then extended his hand. Welcome to Westbridge, Jamie. I shook his hand. sealing the deal. This wasn't just a career move. This was payback. That evening, I walked into my apartment feeling lighter than I had in years. For too long, I had played by Evermark's rules. Let Ashley dictate my value. Let a corrupt system decide what I was worth. But now I was the one making the rules. My phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. An email from Ashley. I smirked, already knowing what it would say before I even opened it. Jamie, I think we may have made a mistake. Let's talk. I didn't reply. Instead, I drafted an email to Noah, looking forward to the press release. Make sure Evermark's name is in bold. Then, I set my phone down, poured myself a drink, and leaned back in my chair, staring out over the city skyline. Ashley thought she had beaten me. She thought she had secured her future. Now, she was about to realize just how wrong she was. 2 weeks later, on my last official day at Evermark, I walked into the office for the final time. The atmosphere felt different. There was tension in the air, a subtle shift in the way people looked at me. Some with curiosity, some with concern, and others, especially those who had sided with Ashley, with barely concealed panic. I wasn't supposed to leave like this. I was supposed to be broken, licking my wounds, searching for a new job, regretting ever standing up for myself. Instead, I was walking out a king, and they had no idea what was about to hit them. As I packed up my last few things, an email popped up on my screen. Subject, final meeting, CEO's office. Ashley, right on cue. I exhaled slowly, then stood, adjusting my jacket before making my way to her office. The walk felt different now. Same office, same hallways, same people. But everything had changed because now I was untouchable. I stepped inside without knocking. Ashley sat behind her desk, but the smug smile was gone. For the first time in years, I saw something I never thought I'd see on her face: doubt. She held my resignation letter in one hand, but what truly caught my attention was the document in her other hand, the report I had included in my resignation letter. She had finally read it, and now she understood what she had lost. Jamie, she started, her voice controlled, careful. Why didn't you tell us about this system before? I let out a quiet chuckle, shaking my head slightly. I did, I said, 3 times. Her face paled. She shuffled through the pages, fingers trembling slightly. She wasn't just realizing she had ignored something valuable. She was realizing she had ignored something that could have saved Evermark. Her voice dropped to something almost desperate. You patented it? I nodded. 6 months ago. Silence stretched between us. The kind of silence that made people realize just how badly they had messed up. Finally, she exhaled, straightened her shoulders, tried to regain some control. Jamie, let's be reasonable. We can match whatever offer you've got. I smiled. She was scrambling now. It's not about money, Ashley, I said. It's about respect. Her jaw clenched. She hated hearing that. For years, she had assumed I would always be there, always giving the company without asking for anything in return. She had treated me as replaceable. And now, she was realizing just how irreplaceable I actually was. Jamie, we can... I cut in smoothly, my voice firm but calm. You had your chance. 3 years. 3 separate pitches. I sat in this very office, and you shot me down every single time. You said it wasn't feasible. You said we weren't ready for that level of change. I gestured toward the document in her hand. And now you're finally reading it because I'm leaving. I adjusted my jacket, giving her one last look. Enjoy your promotion. You and Steve are going to need all the luck you can get. And with that, I walked out for the last time. She was next. The board was done with her. Investors were threatening to pull funding unless there was a leadership restructure. I shook my head in amusement, and to think she was so sure she had won. Yeah, well, she's realizing now that she played herself, Jake said. And the worst part, she still doesn't get why it all fell apart. I chuckled. Of course she doesn't. Ashley had spent years prioritizing office politics over real skill. She had rigged the system, made decisions based on personal favoritism rather than actual qualifications. And now, she was paying the price. So what happens next? I asked. The board is scrambling, Jake said. They're looking for someone to come in and clean up the mess. And from what I hear, they want you. I rolled my eyes. Of course they do. After everything, after years of being overlooked, dismissed, and undervalued, now they needed me. But they were too late. Westbridge had already given me everything Evermark refused to, and I wasn't about to go backward. I assume Ashley hasn't reached out yet? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Not yet, Jake said. But give it time. She will. And when she did, I'd be ready. The next morning, I was sitting in my office when my phone vibrated with a new email. I already knew who it was from before I even looked. Ashley. I exhaled slowly, letting the moment settle before opening the message. Subject, an opportunity. Jamie, I think we may have made a mistake. I'd like to discuss an opportunity for you to return. Name your price. Ashley. I smiled. Of course, she wanted me back. But the problem was, I wasn't for sale. I stared at the email for a long moment before typing out my response. Ashley, I appreciate the offer, but I'm exactly where I need to be. Best of luck. Jamie. Then, without another thought, I hit send. Just like that, the door to Evermark was officially closed forever. I leaned back in my chair, staring out at the city skyline, taking in the reality of my new life. Westbridge was thriving. My system was being rolled out globally. I had full control over my work, a team that respected me, and a salary that made Evermark's look like pocket change. And Evermark? Evermark was bleeding out. The best part? I was just getting started. 2 days after I sent my final email to Ashley, my phone started ringing. At first, I ignored it, letting it go to voicemail, letting her desperation fester. She wasn't used to being ignored. She was used to controlling the conversation, being the one people had to impress, the one making the decisions. But now, she was the one chasing after me. I let it ring again and again. Then, a new email popped up in my inbox. Subject, urgent, let's talk. I smirked before clicking it open. Jamie, I know things ended on bad terms, but I really think we should discuss this. Evermark is willing to negotiate. Whatever you want, we can make it work. Just take a meeting. Please. Ashley. I never thought I'd see Ashley beg. I leaned back in my chair, letting the email sit there for a moment. I had two choices. Ignore her entirely. Let her twist in the wind. Let Evermark continue its downward spiral until it was nothing but a cautionary tale. Or I could play the game one last time. I drummed my fingers on my desk, considering my options. Then I made my decision. I picked up my phone, scrolled through my missed calls, and finally, I called her back. She answered immediately, as if she had been staring at her phone, waiting. Jamie, she breathed, the tension thick in her voice. Ashley, I said smoothly. There was a pause, a hesitation. She was used to having the upper hand, used to me being the one fighting for her attention. But now, the dynamic had flipped. Thank you for calling me back, she finally said. I know you're busy, but I really think we should talk. I gathered that from the 5 missed calls in your email, I said dryly. Another pause. She hated this.